We have some incredible panelists with us tonight. We have Superintendent Nick Antoine from the Diocese of Memphis. We have Dr. Tony Bonta, Assistant Superintendent of Catholic Schools for the Diocese of Nashville, and Kyle Slattery from the American Federation for Children of Tennessee. So we're honored to host this webinar tonight because at ExcelinEd, we're passionate about unlocking opportunity for all students so they can achieve lifelong success. And policies like education savings account programs and other forms of education choice empower parents to choose the best learning environment for their child. And that's why we're here tonight, to empower you with information about this new program and to see if your child is eligible. So I'd like to turn it over to Kyle to tell us a little more about this wonderful program, and so we can find out if your child is eligible. Kyle?
Thank you, Cassie. So I'm happy to be here tonight with everyone. As Cassie mentioned, my name is Kyle Slattery, and I work for the American Federation for Children here in Tennessee. We are school choice advocates. We are here to support the Education Savings Accounts program, to bring it to families like your own, and to work with schools as well to get them registered so that families like yours can find schools that you believe is ultimately the best fit for your child. So what is the ESA program? ESA stands for Education Savings Accounts, and they're awarded to eligible parents in the amount of $8,192 per student, okay? That money can be used for your child's tuition and educational services at approved schools. Parents may take these funds to any private or independent school deemed eligible to participate by the Tennessee Department of Education. Those schools that are deemed eligible have to choose to register for the ESA program. So they become essentially private schools that register to participate in the Education Savings Accounts program. And when your family is awarded a grant for an education savings account, you can use that money at an approved school. So ultimately, families are approved for an ESA. They'll be able to designate the funds that they have in their ESA to their child's private school choice. Now, this is some legislation that was passed back in 2019, but we finally had the program activated recently. So working through with families how to find out if you're eligible is a big part of our work at AFC. Before I start to talk about eligibility, the one thing I'll say is this. Some of this might seem a little complicated. Some of this you might feel a little uncertain after hearing it once. This webinar is being recorded. Look at it again. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and don't decide on your own necessarily whether or not you're eligible, okay? Talk with somebody at the ESA office, talk with someone at AFC, speak with somebody if you're uncertain. When in doubt, please apply. When in doubt, let the state, Department of Education determine your eligibility in the end, because you'll never know unless you actually apply. Okay, so who is eligible to receive an ESA? The first piece of eligibility deals with location, specifically the location of your family's home and where your child is zoned to attend public school. Currently, the ESA program is for families who are zoned to attend a Shelby County school in Memphis or a Davidson County school in Nashville, as well as a school in the Achievement School District. The Achievement School District is a non-geographical area that really indicates the lowest performing schools in the states, in the state of Tennessee. Some and many of those schools are already in Shelby County or Davidson County, but if you live in Shelby County or Davidson County, you might be eligible to receive an ESA. Recently, we passed legislation in the state legislature of Tennessee to include Hamilton County in the ESA program. We're still working out the communication and organization of rolling out the ESA program to families in Chattanooga, where Hamilton County is, but we should have more information on that soon. The second piece of eligibility concerns your family's household income. This would be your annual income. And in order to qualify for an ESA, your family income cannot exceed twice the federal income eligibility guidelines for free school lunch, okay? We have a couple income levels listed below with household sizes. So if we take a look at household size of 4, that could be 2 parents and 2 children, or it could be 1 parent and 3 children. The household size of 4 requires that your family make $78,000 or less in order to participate in the ESA program, okay? These household income levels go up typically each year. They went up from this past year, and you can expect that from year to year, you have to maintain income eligibility guidelines, but they might change a little bit from year to year when you reapply to the program or apply for the first time. Thanks, Cassie. Next slide. Okay, so who is eligible to receive an ESA? There's a couple different eligibility criteria that you also have to keep in mind, okay? So if you wanted to participate in the ESA program for next school year, that would be the 23-24 school year, you would need to have attended a Tennessee public school during the 2022-2023 school year. That's a public school, which includes charter schools as well. Like we said, it's for Shelby County and Davidson County and the Achievement School District. Or you need to be a new Tennessee resident, right? Eligible for the first time to enroll in a Tennessee school. So if you were to be a new Tennessee resident as of next school year, you could apply for this program as well. Lastly, if you are entering kindergarten, if your child is entering kindergarten for the first time in the 23-24 school year, you could also be eligible. This is either a private kindergarten or a public kindergarten. It makes no difference. So one thing to keep in mind is if you currently have a child in, say, a private pre-K, your child would be eligible to participate in the ESA program when they matriculate to kindergarten the next year, okay? This is our basic criteria. The ESA program continues year after year. So if you try to imagine the year that you would like to enroll your child in an ESA private school, the previous year, they would need, you as a family, your child would need to meet one of these criteria. Either they're enrolling in a private school for the first time, leaving public school, you're new to Tennessee, or you're entering kindergarten for the first time. Thanks, Cassie. Okay, what can families use ESA funds for? Okay, that $8,192 can be used for a number of different educational expenses, beginning with tuition and fees at your private school, as well as school uniforms, textbooks, tutoring services, computer hardware, education therapies or services, summer education programs, specialized after-school programs, and other things approved by TDOE for educational purposes. Ultimately, everything that you use your ESA budget for, your ESA money for, has to be pre-approved by the Tennessee Department of Education's ESA office. There's a digital class wallet that should be coming out this summer, and more information about how to manage that class wallet and your account, which is tied to ESA, should be forthcoming down the road. There's certain things you can't use your ESA for, such as sports equipment, but most things in the realm of educational expenses, you can ask for approval from the ESA office. Next slide, Cassie. So in Memphis and Nashville, there are over 60 schools that are currently registered as ESA schools. And while Hamilton County schools are expected to begin the process soon in Chattanooga, between Memphis and Nashville, there are over 60 private schools registered for ESA. You can find a list of these schools on the ESA department website, and Cassie should be dropping that link into the chat box for you. But there's something to keep in mind in terms of your application process for ESA. On the one hand, you need to apply for the ESA program through the Tennessee Department of Education. They will determine your eligibility and they will determine whether or not you're accepted into the ESA program. Secondarily, you also need to apply to an approved ESA school. These are two separate processes. One involves applying for an ESA, that $8,192, and the other involves identifying a school, maybe a couple schools that are ESA registered that you would like to apply your child to. Once you are accepted in the ESA program and then separately admitted by an ESA school, you have fulfilled enrollment in the ESA program, and you can begin to use your ESA funds to pay for expenses such as tuition. Okay, but please keep in mind and remember, you have to apply for the ESA program on one hand, and then you have to apply to an ESA school as well. Next slide. Okay. Recently, the state of Tennessee passed what is commonly known as the grandfathering bill. You might have recalled I mentioned that the ESA program was passed in our state legislature in 2019. Shortly after the legislation passed, there was a series of lawsuits that deactivated the program. That program was finally reactivated this past summer in July of 2022. As a result, by no fault of their own, many families were not allowed to participate in the ESA program in the years of 2019, 2020, and 2021. This grandfathering bill that was passed in April is meant to give an opportunity for families who had missed their eligibility window then, an opportunity to be eligible today and now. What this amounts to is your child might already be in an ESA school, but they have not applied for an ESA grant and they have not received any ESA funding. If your child could have entered a private school in Memphis, Shelby County, or Metro Nashville, or the Achievement School District in 2019 and 2020 and 21, or 2021 and 22 academic year, they could be eligible now, okay? You might recall that a major feature of the ESA program is you have to leave from public school to go to private school, or you have to be entering kindergarten for the first time. If you did that, left public school for a private school, or entered kindergarten for the first time in 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, or 2021, 2022, you could be eligible now to receive an ESA, okay? In addition to having entered an ESA school and left public school in those years, or entering kindergarten, in order to be eligible under the grandfathering bill, your family still needs to be zoned for a Memphis Shelby County school, a Metro Nashville school, or the Achievement School District. And lastly, point number 3, your family's income still must not exceed eligibility guidelines that are twice free school lunch, as we showed on a previous slide, okay? This might seem a little complicated. Reach out to us, reach out to the ESA office. We're happy to talk more with you. But the ESA program, as it sits, creates a number of opportunities for families to participate in the upcoming school year. Thank you.
Kyle, thank you so much for that information. I just want to remind everyone that's on the webinar that we will have the live link, which is on Facebook, but also we will send the link and the full webinar to every participant and every person who registered. So if there's something you didn't get down at the moment, we'll make sure that we get it to you. Now I want to introduce Superintendent Nick Antoine of the Catholic Diocese of Memphis to tell us a little bit more about the schools that he oversees. Superintendent, welcome to the webinar.
Good evening, and thank you for having me, and welcome to all those who are interested in the Education Savings Account program. I'm happy to be, this is the second state in which I've been an administrator to help to bring about parental choice, having done so in Wisconsin about 10 years ago. And so I know the effects firsthand of parental choice. And one of the things that I learned then, and I learned even more, it was reinforced during COVID, is the fact that parents know their children And parents need to have the choice. What is the best choice for them? Because even as a private school administrator, there are excellent public schools throughout the country and in Tennessee. And so this is not about what public schools or other schools don't do well. This is about what we do well and what we offer in the Catholic Diocese of Memphis. So going forward, we have 9 Catholic schools spread throughout Shelby County, and I'll try to zing them off in the different areas, K to 12. So kindergarten through high school. We have 2 high schools, St. Agnes Academy, which is actually a K to 12, but they have 9 to 12 all girls. We have our diocesan high school, co-ed, St. Benedict at Auburndale, which is in Cordova. So those are the 2 high schools. And then we have 7 parochial grade schools, St. Paul and Whitehaven, St. Ann Bartlett, St. Francis, Cordova, Holy Rosary and St. Louis schools in East Memphis, Immaculate Conception Cathedral School in Midtown, and Our Lady of Perpetual Help in Germantown. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. So we're very pleased about that. We've enrolled in those 9 schools already about 100 students this year in the ESSA program. Last count it was 92, I think. And with the new grandfather clause that Kyle spoke about, which we are ecstatic about, one of our schools, St. Francis, already identified what they think may be up to 100 children in the school that may be eligible to apply under the grandfather clause. So if you currently attend one of our schools, I highly encourage you, if you were eligible during those times, you were zoned Shelby County and your income falls within the criteria, to look at that, because what we're talking about is round numbers, $8,000 a year from K through 12. When when you add that up, we're talking $100,000, or more of education paid for by the state. What's great about our schools is the fact that we did an average to look at our schools, and the voucher, that I call it the voucher, is worth about $8,000 and covers tuition, fees, uniforms, and some other things. The average tuition for our participating schools with fees and uniforms is approximately $8,000. So, and that's our grade schools. So when you talk about that, you're going to possibly have no out-of-pocket or very little out-of-pocket expense. And in some cases, you're going to actually be able to carry over monies that, if, for example, a school, the total fees you use in a year is $7,000, the understanding is that you'll be able to bank that $1,000 into your class wallet and use that, for example, to move on to one of our high schools. St. Benedict, for example, is $12,500. So you're still going to owe $4,500. But if you bank the money as your child is growing through grade school, then you're going to have that to apply towards, let's say, the $4,500 that you need to put in. But behind that, one of the things we want to make sure that everybody knows also is that, let's say it's more than that. Let's say that Immaculate Conception Cathedral School is around $9,500 and it's $8,000. Well, there's still $1,500 of a gap. Our schools and our dioceses have hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively to aid families beyond the ESSA program. And so if you get to one of our schools and you say, we owe $4,000 out of pocket, we just can't do it, you may qualify and the school's able to give you $2,000 of that or more, depending on what your need is. Bottom line is, our schools will not, you will not be kept out based on finances if we can help you the best we can. You know the benefits, hopefully you know the benefits of Catholic schools throughout both here in Memphis and in Knoxville and in Nashville, but our student teacher ratios are generally 20-1 or less. And one of the things that's new to me as a new resident of Tennessee, coming from predominantly Catholic areas in the Midwest, is that our Catholic schools are very representative of Memphis, both from a race standpoint, so that they're very diverse. We have a growing Hispanic population, a very big growing Hispanic population in many of our schools. We have a Black and white students throughout our schools, and about 40% of our students at least are non-Catholic and still choose to be at our schools. So we're very happy about that. And the last thing I'll add, aside from what you can see at memphiscatholicschools.org, is that our schools, with regards to the Hispanic population, are starting to really gear up to reach out to them in communications. Many of our newsletters now and ESSA publications are both in English and Spanish. And if you call our schools, as Cassandra said, you're going to get somebody that can speak Spanish as well as English, so that you can reach out to my office. But me, no habla so well. But you can also reach out to our individual schools, and many of them already have administrative assistants or liaisons that speak Spanish. So I really am reaching out to the Hispanic community because they are often devoutly Catholic. We don't want you to be afraid that we won't understand. We'll get you to somebody that if Spanish is your primary language, we'll make sure that we get somebody that can speak with you. So thanks for that time. Check us out at memphiscatholicschools.org. And if you have any more questions, I'll be on throughout the evening.
Superintendent, thank you so much for that great information. I know it's very helpful to families to know what options are available to them. So thank you so much. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Bonta, Assistant Superintendent of Schools for the Diocese of Nashville. Assistant Superintendent, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Cassie, and thank you everyone for being here this evening for this very important program that really does, as Superintendent Antoine said, opens up accessibility and options for families and for parents. And that's what this is about, to see where do you want your child to grow and to live and to find another family. And so I'm going to take a little different take on this for the first part. If you have not gone to private schools, what is that process like for application? What are you looking for? So whether you are looking for a Catholic school or other private school, a couple things you want to consider. Understand the culture of the school. What do they do academically? What are their extracurricular activities? Where's the student support for different learning styles, tutoring, etc.? What are the demographics of the schools? As with anywhere, depending on the part of the city, depending on part of the county, we are in Davidson County, we have a school in Sumner County, and we have a school in Williamson County. So not only for proximity of residents, but also the demographics. This is faith-based education. So what does that mean for that school with its formation and expectations? And then a big part of Catholic schools, private schools, but Catholics in particular for our schools, are the family involvement, the volunteering, the support, the expectation. So when I say the culture of the school, that's just a really important part to understand. What does it mean to attend this type of private Catholic education? And on a note, I also came from a different state, Indiana, which also used a voucher program. So I think I want to just reiterate what Kyle and what Superintendent Antoine said is, be able to choose the school you want. A lot of great options, but the most important thing is find again the place where you find a family. Next slide, please. A couple practical points. And again, do not let language be an inhibitor. Many schools speak Spanish. They have someone that can speak Spanish or even other languages. But visit the school, contact the main office, engage the school leader and the admissions staff. Meet with the principal or the school leader, the admissions staff, financial aid, counselors. Understand the staff that the school has for your child. What are the supports for parents, parent clubs, parent involvement? Ask questions. Any kind of question is open, and people want to be able to describe their community. Different schools have different charisms, and different schools have different demographics. And that to me is what is so exciting about working in the Diocese of Nashville and with the private schools that are participating as ESA approved schools in this central part of Nashville in Davidson County and a little beyond. Understand again the mission of the school, the vision of the school, and the culture. So if you're not Catholic, you're going to see things like crosses or crucifixes. Students will go to mass, what that means, and how they'll be expected to understand diversity, understand and respect race, religion, faith, etc. That's where, in essence, the world just opens up because of such a great diversity. And then finally, with this part is understand the application process and the financial aid process. So again, that all begins by a call to the main office, the main number, or by stopping by, and then making an appointment to talk with someone, especially the school leader and the admissions people, who can help guide you through this process. Catholic schools use a system called FACTS, and that's a lot that bases on the previous year's income taxes report. And so the opportunity to help fund an education is there. And just as Superintendent Antoine said, the ESA program gives you a foothold for supporting that admissions, that tuition bill. But not all schools are at that cost. Some of the schools will be higher, but always, always, always ask the schools for what other financial aid and possibilities they have. Some other practical points to reiterate what Kyle said. ESA and the school applications are two separate processes, and I just want to reiterate this because from a school perspective, they're going to want to know, have you applied to the ESA? And then they're going to want to know, have you started the application process at the school? So families and students apply to the ESA program and be approved, and then you receive a letter from ESA that says that you were approved. And that's very important because that you want to show the school. At the same time, you're applying to the school, and then you must be accepted. An important part here is they're just going to want to make sure that you succeed, and you want your child to succeed. That's what we're about at Catholic schools. So the students must be accepted for both areas and approved. And so other facts would include documents for the ESA are also in Spanish, and they're even in Arabic. So those are some important things that you can do. And when you go to look at the schools, you're going to see a map, but also the schools in whatever system you're in. You just want to know if they're participating. So for example, in the Diocese of Nashville, there are 10 diocesan or parochial schools that are participating ESA approved. There are also 2 independent Catholic schools that I'll mention in a minute that are also approved. And then there's also a number of private schools. And the ESA website should have those on there if you want to see that. If you want more information for Catholic schools in the Diocese of Nashville, there's the website. And one last point on this, do you want to check into is make sure that you look at the cost. What is tuition cost? What are the fees of the school? So sometimes there are no fees. Sometimes everything is included in the tuition. Other times there are fees for sports. There are fees for extracurricular activities. There are expectations to sell cookies and candy. There are all those kind of things that parents with bake sales. Understand what the uniform requirements are. Understand what retreat fees are for the spiritual programs and the faith formation. And that, I would just close on this note as far as culture. The faith component, if you're hungering for faith and spirituality, that is just a natural driver for a Catholic. Or if you're not Catholic, again, just to understand what that culture is like, to add the component of not only the intellectual, the emotional, but the spiritual. And finally, just a practical map. So the schools listed on this map are all, they will denote ESA approved. So in Davidson County, in the Diocese of Nashville, we have Christ the King School, and then you'll see in parentheses the grade levels, but again, ESA goes K through 12. You'll see Holy Rosary Academy. Overbrook Catholic School is one of the schools that is run by the Dominican Sisters, co-ed. There's St. Anne School, there's St. Bernard Academy, there's St. Edward School, St. Henry, St. Joseph, St. Pius X Classical Academy, Father Ryan High School, co-ed 9 through 12, St. Cecilia Academy 7 through 12, all girls. There is one school on Northside in Sumner County, that is Pope John Paul II Preparatory School, co-ed, and there is one school in Williamson County that is ESA approved, and that is St. Matthew's School, ESA approved. So again, thank you for your time in this presentation. It's been an honor to present to you, and I really appreciate and wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bonta. We really appreciate you sharing your guidance and expertise. I want to make sure that I point out that the application window will close for the 2023 fall semester on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. So I'm going to leave this slide up for just a moment. If you have, as a reminder, if you have a question, please drop it into the Q&A. I have quite a few in here already, which is great. And of course, if we answer your question along the way, as you pop it in, it's no problem. And if we don't get to your question tonight, I will make sure to follow up with each and every person. We will have a web email address so you can email your question to as well. So we'll have that. And I want to give everyone a chance to write down that date, May 17th, 2023. And then we're going to move into a little time with Q&A with Dr. Bonta, with Superintendent Antoine, and with Kyle Slattery. So we'll move into that now. All right. I think we see everyone. So let me start with a question we received yesterday, actually, or this morning. Makila emailed us and asked, do you have a way to submit the application and other documents online, or is printing and mailing the only option? Kyle, can you address that, please?
So currently, unfortunately, all application materials have to be a paper copy of some sort. You can mail them or you can drop them off in person at the Tennessee Department of Education. We are expecting a digital application in the years ahead. So if you are reapplying year after year, you can expect that there will probably be a digital application to complete for the next school year. But currently, if you are applying for the ESA program to begin in 23-24 school year, you do have to complete a paper application. I would encourage you to make a copy of any materials that you send as a paper application. I might even take a photo of the envelope that you send everything in with the postmark date, just to make sure that you have everything covered. And you might even want to email the ESA office to let them know it's on the way. When they receive your application, they will communicate to you that it's been received. But unfortunately, everything is sort of a paper copy currently. Tony, Nick, any recommendations there on your part?
I would second that. The ESA team is very responsive and very understanding, and I would just for double check, I would recommend that.
Yeah, I would echo that, but also to say that, and Dr. Bonta may know as well, our schools individually are getting pretty good at this, and they know a lot of the answers as well. I agree. If you know, Lauren Huddleston and people like that at Tennessee with ESSA, they're on top of this. But the schools, both in the office and the administrators, as Dr. Bonta alluded to, you're going to call, you're going to get answers immediately, even quicker than, say, even my office. They know more at the ground level.
Thank you, Superintendent. We appreciate it. Here's a question that came in. Is this only for K-12, or does this extend beyond college?
So good question. This is a program for kindergarten through 12th grade currently. One thing to keep in mind is that while you can only participate in the program if you're a kindergartner through 12th grader, you can save up to 50% of your ESA funds each year. And that money can roll over year after year. And once you graduate from the ESA program and you graduate from high school, you can use all of those funds you saved year after year towards educational expenses and tuition at a Tennessee college or university. The ESA office will have more that they can share about this and exactly how it works. But you might think about, so I won't have an ESA once I'm in college, but if I save money now, then I will have money I can spend on my college tuition and expenses down the road. So that's an important idea to keep in mind. Now, it's also important to understand, depending on where you attend school, in kindergarten through 12th grade, there will be different tuition levels. Some schools are going to be more expensive than others. Some schools, might ask that you spend, 50 to 100% of your ESA on tuition, depending on the cost of tuition. That's sort of a conversation between you and the school that your child enrolls in, the ESA school that they enroll in. So it's something that you have to do a little research on. It's something you have to learn a little bit about as you navigate what ESA school your child will enroll in. Tony, Nick, go ahead.
Superintendent, go ahead first, please.
No, I don't have much to add on that other than, what Kyle said, and just would just have people follow up, as I said, directly at the schools. That way, then you get the answers from there, because as Dr. Bonta alluded, there are each school, while they're all, we'll just say fruit in a basket. There are apples and oranges and grapes in each one. So they're all different in their own way. But as I said, I really feel as we continue to move on, and that's been the case throughout Indiana and Wisconsin, you get better at this, and then you're really able to help and answer the question. But this is so new that, like, for example, a lot in the chat tonight, these are questions that we're still answering or the government is still having to address. And so it's a very fluid situation. But what I am finding here is that the Department of Education, as well as IFC, and then our local schools, are really responsive. There is not a sense of contentiousness or hostility or volatility. We're working together for the best of the student.
Well, that's always good to hear, since we're talking about kids who need an education option that works best for them. Let me ask another question to our school leaders here. If a family has a child or has children already at a participating private school, but they also have an incoming kindergartner, does that change the eligibility at all for that youngest child that's incoming kindergartner?
Cassie, can you clarify that question just a little bit and say a little bit more before I respond?
Sure. So if you have maybe you have a fifth grader and a sixth grader at the school, and you have a child who is an incoming kindergartner who would be going to that school, does the fact that they have older siblings already out of public school change the eligibility for that child?
Good question. So the child's eligibility is the child's eligibility. It's not family overall eligibility. So while you might have two children already in private school who might not be eligible because they've been there for, let's just say, 6 years, the new child who is entering kindergarten for the first time, if they meet the other eligibility criteria, they could receive an ESA, even though maybe their siblings don't.
Okay.
I would like to add to that. One of the things when you're looking at the schools, that's an important question. The other thing is, especially if you're bringing multiple children into a school at the same time, I'm sure it's the same way in Memphis. I'll speak for Nashville, though. You want to make sure that each class grade level has room for your child. So, for example, you may have a K, an incoming third, and incoming fifth. When you're having that dialogue at the school, if it's more than just one child, you want to make sure what are their levels of eligibility, that is, that they have the room. So some schools may just be maxed out at a certain grade level just because they don't have any more physical room in the building or in that classroom. But I just want to say it worked for 54 students here in Nashville. And I just close on a simple question, is that no, that K student definitely can come in.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I have a question here from LaShondra. She asks, can homeschool children also participate?
So unfortunately, you can't go from homeschool into an ESA school and be eligible. You have to be entering kindergarten for the first time or leaving a public school that is Memphis Shelby County Schools or Davidson County Schools or Achievement School District. However, what I would say is, I don't know how old your child is, and I don't know if they were eligible maybe in 2019, 2020, 2021, or 22. But there might be some other circumstances that we could look at. But if you were just saying homeschool to ESA school for next year, the answer would be no, but there might be some other circumstances around that grandfathering bill that I discussed that might allow for your child to be eligible. So please reach out to our application support group at Powered by Education. I mentioned them in the chat with their email address. Reach out to the ESA office. Don't not apply, but try to learn a little bit more before you really have a certain idea about whether you are ineligible or not.
Our next question comes from Helen. Do children in Springfield, Tennessee qualify?
So unfortunately, Springfield is not in Davidson County or Shelby County. I believe it's in Robertson County. Is that right, Tony? Or Rutherford County? One of the two? Okay. It's Robertson. Okay. The only circumstance where you might qualify is if your child achieves or attends a school in the Achievement School District, and you would need to find out if the public school they attend is in the Achievement School District. If that were the case, they could qualify. But if they're entering kindergarten for the first time, unfortunately, the answer is no. If you're a new Tennessee resident, unfortunately, the answer is no. You would need to really find out if they're in the Achievement School District. That's the one scenario where you could qualify currently. We're hoping that the program will eventually expand to other areas of Tennessee, much like it is expanding to Chattanooga and Hamilton County. But we don't currently have any legislation that has been passed to expand the program out of Memphis and Nashville and Chattanooga.
Thank you, Kyle. One point I wanted to make, or I wanted you to make for us, is that there is a little bit of wiggle room in the school may not be in one of those counties, but as long as the child resides in it and the school is participating. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and I'll let Tony and Nick jump in here too, but the big picture is if your family lives in Shelby County or Davidson County and your home is zoned for a school in the Memphis Shelby County School District or the Metro Nashville School District, based on where your home is and the school you're zoned for, you as a family could receive ESAs for your children. But you might be able to attend an ESA school, private school, that's in Fayette County outside of Memphis, or it's in Hendersonville, Tennessee, for example, or you name it. The schools where you take your ESA dollars, they can really be anywhere. As long as they're registered as an ESA school, they can receive your child and receive your ESA money. Whether or not you get an ESA is based on where your home is, but there are many schools that reside outside of Davidson County or outside of Shelby County that could be registered for the ESA program as well. So that's where I'd encourage you to take a close look at that list of ESA schools, and there's over 60. And there might be a school, a little further from your home, but you feel would be the best choice for your child, and that's where you'd like to apply. That's perfectly reasonable and perfectly within the realm of possibility.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Guys, can I just make a quick comment? So like, for example, what Kyle just said, St. Matthew's School is in Williamson County. It's like right on the line of the counties, and Pope John Paul II is in Sumner County, but it's again, an easy drive. And I would imagine Memphis is the same way, but again, as Kyle said, it's the residents and the income, but if your school is ESA approved, even if it's outside of Davidson County, you could still go there.
We also got a question about what criteria is needed for a private school. And we can maybe direct this attendee to the Tennessee DOE website for all of that accountability. But the question came up about teacher certification. And I think that this is a comment or question we receive from families, sometimes from families that this is their first look into education choices. They've always been at a public school. So Dr. Bonta, Superintendent Antoine, could you talk just a little bit about some of the accountability pieces that are there for students, whether it's teacher certification or the accountability to parents? I think that will be really helpful for a couple of our attendees who are thinking about some different options outside of their public school.
Dr. Bonta, I'll take the safety part. You take the licensure part since you've been here a little longer. One of the things that ESSA did, and I think it's important for parents to know, and like you said, Cassandra, about new parents, the background checks on teachers and on entire staffs of the school, they had to go through a very rigorous, the fingerprint checks and everything like that. So I think that's an important facet of making sure that the people inside the building that are around the children are safe. And so that's a real important, to me, that's a real important point, especially for new parents. I simply responded to that question, and Dr. Bonta, I'll let him elaborate. Our teachers are all licensed, in the sense in the state of Tennessee, but I'm new to the state of Tennessee. So I'm going to defer to Dr. Bonta if he wants to elaborate a little more on that, simply because he's going to know more.
Thank you, Superintendent Anton. A couple of things to consider when you're looking at a private school. If you look at the Catholic schools, private schools, are they accredited? So one of the first things you want to notice is, are they accredited through two things in particular, but a system called, or an accreditation called Cognia, which used to be known as SACS. So that's the first thing, is to make sure that the school or the diocesan system or the is accredited, Cognia, and by the state of Tennessee. So those would be two things as far as accreditation for the school. The other part is the licensure of the administrator. So does the administrator have a license, or are they working towards a licensure? Because administrators need licenses as well as teachers do. The third component would be the teachers. So you want to look at what is their content area? So, and are they credentialed? And then for the Catholic schools, we also say that as a person caring, because that you're going to spend a lot of time with that teacher who's almost like another parent, or certainly an adult that helps form them. But all the teachers either must be licensed, or if they're coming in from a different state, for example, in the process of transferring that licensure, or again, working towards a license. So some of the licensures you could see on the state of Tennessee website regarding if they're credentialed or licensed. If they're in the middle of a process, like they're working with a state university or a private university like Aquinas to help get licensed or credentialed, that won't be on the state site, but it doesn't mean that they're not working to get that certification, that licensure. Cassie, does that answer? Does that help answer?
It certainly does. As Superintendent, it looked like you were about to jump back in.
Yeah, I was answering a chat about Bonlin and Bartlett, but no, what Dr. Bonta said is accurate in the sense of the licensure, and I'm going to go that this is new to me. The Diocese of Memphis is accredited through Cognia as an entire diocese, so all of our schools are lapped into one, whereas in other places I've been throughout the country, you might be individually accredited as a school. So we are diocesan accredited. Dr. Bonta can speak if I'm not sure if Nashville does the same thing. They do as Cognia. So that's a good thing. And we're not, generally pulling people off the streets. And we're very, basically what I say is, and I think it goes to performance. I think that's one of the things. Let's be very clear about this. This is why this is the perfect storm for us as private schools, because the Diocese of Nashville, the Diocese of Memphis, and so many other private schools, we were open and in person during COVID. So there wasn't learning loss. In fact, our test scores show not only did we keep up, we're excelling. What we want to say to parents out there, and again, it's not about trash in other schools, what we do well. we did not lose 2 years of learning. Our third graders are reading at third or fourth grade level. Our seventh graders are reading at seventh, eighth, and even ninth grade level. We didn't take a step back. And I'm maybe getting a little off subject. The only places where we, want to make sure that we continue to address, and we do in our diocese, is, mental health awareness with all of our students and everything through COVID and all that. And again, that's a little off tangent, but point being is we were open and we remain open for business. And that has translated well to no learning loss, because as one teacher said, and some people have said recently, think about your child coming into a school, and if they're reading at third grade level and they're in fifth grade, well, our principals and our teachers, they're ready to bring that child to that level. We're going to get them there, but we're not mediocre by any choice. That's what we're hoping that you're going to find out, is that we excel.
That's wonderful to hear. I myself am a parent of a child who has struggled to remain on grade level, particularly in reading, and definitely struggled during the pandemic when we had some school closures. So as a parent, I certainly appreciate that. We have
openings. We have openings in several Memphis Catholic schools. If you would like to relocate in Zone Shelby County, I'll be happy to talk with you in the morning. Visit memphiscatholicschools.org.
We may email. My husband is very excited about the prospect of moving to Tennessee. So we have a couple more questions here. And again, if we don't get to your question, I promise we will follow up. I'll download this chat and reach back out to you. I'll also drop the Tennessee email address for our friends at American Federation for Children, AFC Tennessee, in the chat too. So if we don't get to you tonight, we'll make sure that we answer your question. A question just came up from Lee, and that question was, is there a lottery if there are more people interested than available spots?
There would be a lottery. Currently, there is less than 1,000 families participating. So we're several thousand families away from needing a lottery. As a result, if you are approved and based on your eligibility, you shouldn't have anything to worry about in terms of entering a lottery and rolling the dice, so to speak. So currently, the program is in a good place where there's plenty of room for families to be admitted, and you don't have to worry about being selected from a lottery.
Another question we received is about whether the school can be online, or is it only brick and mortar private schools?
I'm not currently aware of any online only schools. I would encourage you to go look at the list of approved schools that Cassie dropped into the chat box. Remember, in order to participate in the ESA program, you do have to enroll in an ESA school. So part of this application and approval process is you can be approved for the ESA program, but then you also need to be admitted to an ESA school. So please keep that in mind.
I'd like to speak to that for a moment, if I could, and Dr. Bonta, being in Indiana, might know this too. When the voucher program began in Wisconsin, it was moved to Racine County. There were several schools that popped up overnight. We called them storefront schools that simply were looking to get students enrolled, gather up that government money, and not deliver on the academics. And in fact, as parents have alluded on here, teachers weren't even licensed. That's why what Dr. Bonta said is very important, that do your research on your schools and investigate and educate yourself on the administrator on that. What I think we bring as Catholic schools, and there are many other private schools in Shelby County, certainly in Davidson County, is we have decades, if not hundreds of years of success that back us up. You're not coming into some school that just started up last night and you don't know if the teachers or anybody else are accredited. So do your homework as parents, which you will, but know that if you're coming to a Diocese of Memphis or Diocese of Nashville school, we've been there, done that, and we've been doing it pretty well for decades.
Dr. Bonta, do you want to jump in on that?
I would second that. You don't want some fly by night. You want to do your homework. And that's the reason why these schools are approved. That's why there's a process. Every school that's ESA approved has to go through an application process with the state through the ESA team. They come, they give talks, they train the administrators. There are requirements for the schools. So for example, any student that attends a Catholic school has to take the TCAP, for example. And I say that not to get in the weeds, but there are expectations for these ESA approved schools, not only as integrity matter with the diocese, both dioceses, but also from the state and their expectations. So I can't answer specifically, as Kyle said, if any programs here in Tennessee are, online. But the other thing I would say is you want that in-person experience. You just want to have that experience in that private school because of the community and the family you're going to get. So that would be a counterpoint, I would say. Nothing against necessary online schooling, but I think there's just a difference for in-person.
That's a great point, Dr. Bonta. One thing that I would also say is if the quality of the choices that you have are not all high quality, it's not much of a choice for those families, right? And so at ExcelinEd, we don't care about the type of school, right? Whether it's a religious-based school or it's a public school or it's a charter school. We want parents to have really great options so they can find the education and the learning environment that works best for their child. So I'm getting a couple more questions asking about their child's eligibility. To anyone that's asking that question right now, we will get you these slides and a copy of this webinar so you can look and go through it, because I know we're almost at time here. I want to ask our panelists very quickly if there's any parting words you want to share with the families that we have participating tonight.
I'm going to start that off, if you don't mind, just because I get these guys jazzed up.
You have higher rank.
Well, I'm not higher rank by any means, but because parents, this is game-changing, life-changing money that you can use for your child. And let's be very clear about where we are and where our country is going. Without good education, there is no hope. And with no hope, there is no future for children. So this is, Governor Lee used the word when he came and talked to all of us, the administrators, and he said he was mentoring a child and he was reading to him, and he said it changed the trajectory of the life of the child and their family. That is what this program is going to do. And Dr. Bonta alluded to Indiana, Wisconsin, Arkansas is just enabled the voucher, Oklahoma, Texas is talking about by 2024, the election cycle, in 2025, you will see all 50 of our states, hopefully with this program. And for those of you waiting for it to come outside of these 4 counties, Tennessee, I never thought I'd be seeing Hamilton and I think Knox counties, within a year of us just starting this up, less than a year. I mean, this rolled out August and we've already got these counties. Tennessee's going to have it online for everybody in I'd say under 3 years. So my point is $8,000 to go to premium, excellent private schools throughout Tennessee and different parts of Tennessee. Don't pass this up. Do your homework, and you are going to find a great school somewhere in Tennessee. And eventually, it's if it doesn't get to you now, it'll get to you. And for you homeschool parents, many of you asking out there, that is a great question. Keep sending those questions to Kyle, especially, and other lobbyists to get your name on that agenda and your group, because I want to see those homeschoolers in my Catholic schools. I want to see those homeschoolers get the ability to do that. So help us by talking to your legislators, either in your area or up in Nashville, and we'd love to have the homeschool children and matriculate into eventually our Catholic schools. So thank you so much, and thank you, Cassandra and Kyle and Dr. Bonta, for what a great team we've got here.
Dr. Bonta?
I just want to thank all of you again for participating. Please spread the word. We are finding word of mouth is the best way to promote this program. And again, I want to just reiterate too, it is a true value proposition, life changer. Find a second family and go and visit those schools. Do not let anything stop you from finding the best education for your son or daughter, for your child, to just get out there and just have the opportunity to see the best person your child can be.
Kyle?
So one thing I wanted to remind everybody about is that the deadline for applying is May 17th. That is not a hard deadline, but it's what they are calling a priority deadline. I'd highly encourage you to get your application in by May 17th. If you don't, I would still reach out to the ESA office, reach out to us at AFC, reach out to somebody that can help you to still get those pieces of the application in as soon as possible if you can't make the May 17th deadline. Cassie has the Tennessee ESA program website posted right here. You can see it's esa.tnedu.gov. Monitor this website in case there's any deadline changes for the application. That way that you can know just how much time you will have to complete it. We are sort of in a crunch time. We've only got a couple weeks until the applications are due, but the more you can communicate with us and the more you can communicate with the ESA office, the more you'll be able to get that application in time and based on their expectations. Ultimately, we're hoping that this program will grow. We're excited that it's giving more opportunities to families in Memphis and Nashville and now Chattanooga to have a school of their choice. But this application process can be a bit overwhelming. Like I said, email us if you have questions. Cassie's got some guidance on next steps. I will also include in the chat box another email that will be helpful that is options@poweredbyeducation.org. This is an application support organization that we work with that can help you learn more about whether you're eligible, what you need to apply, and help walk you through the application process. So please, yes, don't hesitate to reach out and be in touch with us if you need more guidance. We're here to help.
Kyle, thank you so much. We appreciate all of our panelists tonight. As a reminder, the email address right here on the screen, tn@federationforchildren.org, is a place where you can ask questions. And to see the ESA application, you see this URL right on the screen, esa.tnedu.gov. We want to encourage you to keep tonight's conversation going, to share this Facebook Live on your Facebook profile. Also want to remind participants that later this week, you will receive an email from us with the full recording. So please be on the lookout. You're welcome to share that. Thank you to all our panelists and for everyone attending tonight's webinar. I want to close by just reminding our participants that if your child is in a school that is knocking it out of the park for them, then you are blessed and lucky, and that is wonderful. I have a child in a public school who is thriving in her public school. But if your child needs a different option, we want you to be empowered as parents to find the best learning environment for your child. And so this is one option, the ESA program, but please explore the different options, both public and private, in your community for the betterment of your child. And again, we'll stay in touch with all of our participants. But we thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night.